Hi, everyone. We will start within a few minutes.
Yep, let's just let that in this rolling. Hello, everyone. Okay, we still have people getting in. Just a couple more minutes. Just until the number of attendees stabilizes somewhere.
Yeah, we'll let people join.
Okay, let's start. Hello, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. This is our first Product360 event series webinar. I'm very excited to have you here and to start this initiative. So a few words for this event. Product360 is an event series that aims to give a view of how product managers work with engineers, designers, and data scientists, so they can solve business problems from all the sides. Our goal is to focus on this collaboration and share best practices and common thinkings or failures or what happened before on different companies across the world. So we can share this and have this shared understanding of why we build what we build, how we build products that people love, and in the end to build a better collaboration among us, and of course to broadcast what is product management and digital product management in our world, especially in the software as a service industry, especially with all these new trends that coming in as product strategy, product ops, onboarding. There are a lot of let's say terminology and stuff like that, and this is why we begin this event series, so we can tackle all of this. So our plans are to organize mini conferences every 2 or 3 months and bring together global leaders in product design, data, and engineering. And we are very happy to have with us today Mickey Alon. I will make the introductions in 2 minutes. But yeah, hopefully this is the beginning of something that we have conference size in the future and have more people talking and speakers from product and design and engineering, of course, and data. So this is not focused only on product. So we want to share everyone's opinion and everyone's experience. Before moving forward, I would like to say thanks to our sponsors and supporters. Of course, this is an Orfium initiative, so I would like to thank Orfium for making this happen, for sponsoring this event, and of course, our supporters, Product Community Greece, GTG Athens, and the Athens UX community that are supporting us for this event and in the future. Throughout the event, we will have the possibility to have questions and answers. Please use the Zoom's Q&A tool to send us all your questions. And in the end, we will address all of them with Mickey and Olga and Kaya. So we'll be able to see all of your questions and respond to them. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mickey Alon from Gainsight. And he will talk to us about product-led strategy and how we can prioritize our features, right, Mickey?
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll share my screen. I'll introduce myself. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Great. So thank you for having me. Super excited to speak with you guys. I'll start with a quick intro. My name is Mickey Alon. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Gainsight PX. We are a product experience platform. Also co-author of a book, Mastering Product Experience, discussing how to deliver personalized product experiences and to really facilitate a product-led go-to-market strategy, which we're going to discuss in this session today. This book is available to download for free at gainsight.com and also available at Amazon as well. So in today's agenda, we're going to do an introduction to product-led strategy. It's a fast-growing strategy that is being around for the last 3 to 5 years, I would say, but now really accelerating. So what is really product-led strategy? Why is it disrupting the market right now? Also speak about the customer growth wheel and the flywheel and the customer perspective of delivering products, and then how to really build in-app experiences as part of your launch of new features or products, and how to take more data-driven decisions using tools like product analytics. And again, feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will have time at the end to tackle them, but you can shoot them as I go through the slides. Just to give you a quick overview, what the platform that we actually build at Gainsight. It's a product experience management platform. It has 3 elements. It has analytics to help you understand usage of your product. It has in-app guidance, messaging, when you want to enable users and message to your users with walkthroughs. And it allows you to also collect contextual feedback so you can actually understand the reasoning behind a score of a feature or how customers actually feel about specific product or features. So let's start with introduction to product-led growth. Let's understand what really is product-led growth. So in short, it's a powerful strategy that relies on the product to help you with the customer onboarding, customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. In short, it really puts the product at the hands of the customer so they can try before they buy and understand what value your product can actually deliver to them. And really why product-led growth is disrupting the software industry. We're seeing that all across the board, especially at early stage companies, and then also now recently public companies are using this go-to-market. Why is it really happening? We know that today it's much easier to build and launch products, and we are seeing millions of product being created and launched. Even throughout the pandemic, we're seeing that the things that got accelerated, for example, transformation, moving to cloud, and even delivering more online product is becoming our reality. That leads to the fact that growth is becoming more challenging and existential for companies. It means that you have a lot more competition, customers have more options. So how would you gain market share? How would you compete better? You definitely need a stronger product, but you also need to be able to gain and win market share. So the go-to-market, if everybody is going to just try to market together, we will see marketing channels being saturated, the marketing channels becoming more and more expensive, and there's a diminishing return of that spend. So in these scenarios, I would say that it creates a lot of pressure on the product to lead the way and help accelerate revenue. And we'll see how this is actually done. The growth rate expected today from companies, public companies or private companies, is just a higher and higher expectation of efficiency. You need to grow more efficiently. And it means that you need to spend the right amount of money, and that investment should turn into business in a more effective way. In the old days, in the sales-led model, you'll see a salesperson doing and marketing doing a lot of qualification for prospect, and it takes a long cycle until you're seeing actually a deal. In the new days, you're leading with a product, and the product is doing the selling for you, at least initially. So successful companies really increase differentiation. Obviously, they use the product to differentiate, but they also differentiate with the way they market and sell products. And we're going to see how this is done in a product-led growth type of motion, which I think is going to be the reality in all products in the next several years. But in essence, if you're able to put the product at the hands of the customer and they can experience value, it's a much more scalable way versus just sending them some white papers and trying to email them just to get their attention. There's another evolving thing that's happening, the customer expectation. We are using apps every day. We have great experiences from the B2C world, and we're seeing consumerization of the B2B platform. So if I'm using a great looking and fast moving application on my day-to-day work, I expect the same thing when I actually go and use it for the business side. So one of the things is to deliver that experience, allow customers to try before they buy. This is becoming also relevant to even large scale B2B enterprises. The end user will still want to try as opposed to take a big decision without being able to test out your product. And then the end user is becoming the catalyst for growth. They're becoming, they will actually drive decisions. There's a bottom-up approach that we're seeing more and more. It's less and less top-down decisions that the CEO of the VP will say, this is the platform I want. It's actually bottom-up approach saying, this is the very effective tool. We need to get our job done. And then ease of use is critical, especially in B2B. These are operational systems. It helps us getting things done. So time to value impacts the buying decision. And also the pricing strategy. Pricing expectation is changing. I would like to pay based on what I really need, less of one size fit all. I actually want to pay for what I actually use. And then also we're seeing more and more that the product experience is tied to the brand experience. We know that the hiring is always difficult and challenging. So if you have a great product and great looking product, most likely you'll see a better hiring, and the brand of your company will look different, as opposed to having a bad product experience. Then nothing will actually solve that, and you'll have a hard time to really hire and retain even employees or impress your customers. There's another element that really drives product-led focus, and these are the economics. There's several very important economics when you look at the company. Maybe it's early stage, startup, or a public company. Customer acquisition cost is a very important metric to track, to understand how effective is the business. For every dollar spent, how many customers can you actually acquire? What does it cost you to acquire a customer? When you're leading with your product, it actually gives you a way to really use the product as a funnel. So customer acquisition costs will be more effective. You'll be able to drive signups and trials, so you're accelerating the funnel. Cash payback is also a powerful metric. If I'm able to convert more and accelerate the customer acquisition into a paying customer and active customer, I can route dollars back to marketing spend to bring more of the same type of audience. And there's also customer lifetime value. This is something that once you acquire a customer, how much revenue will that yield to your company? And these metrics, again, when you're trying to build a new startup, and my background, I've built 2 startups in the past 10 years. One of them was acquired by Marketo, and I joined Marketo for a couple of years and learned how a public company addresses a new product launch and go to market. And those metrics are really critical for you to understand as product managers as well. You need to understand what the impact of your product and what can you contribute to the company's success. The other two metrics are retention rate and expansion rate. Can you really retain the customers? And we will see how can you use analytics to learn what keeps the customers or users coming back to your product, what they value most. That will impact retention rate. If you just acquire customers and you lose them, you have a leaky bucket, and you want to make sure that retention rate is a very critical metric, especially when you're growing a company. So we are in a subscription business. There is a renewal happening all the time. So we are able to always accumulate revenue, but if we have an issue with retention rate, that's going to be a challenging element. Just a quick view of what happened during the pandemic. So the transformation to cloud was peaking, and we are seeing the cloud SaaS companies actually did grow massively during the pandemic, because the market realized that the online solution, distributed teams, are the way to go, and SaaS as business is very efficient business and more susceptible to any type of recession, mainly because the fact that we are now global, we have global teams, and the system is globally available, and more businesses are becoming online. We also see as customers, you guys are probably spending way more online than before. If it's about trips and things like that, in the past, you probably were more accustomed to call as opposed to do online transactions, but we're seeing the transactions online are becoming more and more acceptable. Another element to look at is the product-led type of SaaS businesses, and they actually have an even better revenue to growth rate. It means that they're able to spend less and grow more. The efficiency of the growth is actually better. It means that in traditional company, I need to hire more salespeople, and it's kind of the cost of growth, the cost of doing business is very, very high. Every new customer, I need to give them full attention with sales, customer success, and marketing. In a product-led business, the product really helps you drive that expansion and cross-sell. So once you acquire a customer, they can almost self-serve. So their unit of economic of growth is much more efficient. It means these companies will get much higher valuation. So if you look at the stock exchange, you look at companies, if you look at their efficiency in marketing to sales and COGS, product-led company has a huge advantage, and this is why their valuation tends to be much higher. This is coming from the book I wrote. This is really describing the new customer journey and how you as product managers want to look at these elements. As product managers, what you're doing, what you're delivering has a ripple effect on the company and the bottom line outcome. So if we look at the customer journey, what we can see here is much better collaboration between different teams. And from the customer perspective, this is a way more focus on their needs, and it helps us also accelerate value to customer as they sign up. So marketing teams are now driving trials and sign up. In the acquisition portion, it's less about slideshows. It's actually about trials or freemium. And you can see that the product team is now becoming the front, being part of the front team to address those challenges and opportunities. So if I look at the product qualified leads, it's a new term, but when you have a trial, it means that you want to start looking at that, looking at the experience, and help your company really and your users to go from that first acquisition stage to adoption, retention, and expansion. And there's also, you can see the cross-functional alignment to drive customer value. So that's kind of the new experience. And there's a couple of elements you want to look at when you're prioritizing your roadmap. Instead of delivering more and more features, you want to look at the journey, you want to look at the financial metrics and have some impact on your decisions. because that will actually what's going to drive success for a company, not necessarily the more feature you deliver, the better you're going to do. So we're going to speak about 5 steps to building a product-led strategy and walk through these steps and show you some examples. So step number 1 is really building a data-driven product organization. In this scenario, you want to instrument your product. Instrumentation means you want to track the feature usage. There's a ways to do it without code, without heavy lifting on engineering. Tools like Gainsight and other tools are supporting those type of approach. So you don't need engineering to track or write code. It actually is going to be tracked automatically. And then the tracking should evolve around the core features. You need to know how often, who is using your features in order to really drive a more data-driven decision when you building your roadmap. If people are not using your features, there's no point of delivering more. And in many cases, I wonder how many of you have the right insights they need today to better understand adoption. So feel free to send that in the Q&A. What do you guys use today, and do you have enough visibility? Other elements are really to track is the user attribute, account attribute, and the releases. There's a lot of data points you want to have to better understand the customer journey and where are the friction points in your product, but instrumentation is actually a very important step. Looking at the KPIs, the key performance indicators, when you have a more data-driven approach, you look at a couple of elements. One is the frequency, how often users coming and using your product. If they use it 5 days a week, 1 day a week, 1 day a month, this is indication on what type of strategy you want to have, and definitely the health, the basic health of your product. Then there's value actions they do. So when you instrument key features, it's really important for you to see what is the frequency of using the high value features. They just might log in, use a low value feature. They might look great in my analytics, but I'm not tracking the high value features. So these are the value action that you want to track. And then the sentiment. Sentiment means that as soon as they use these features, can I ask them for a score and some comments? And you can do it through in-app messaging. And then it will allow you to understand also their sentiment. They might be using that a lot, but in many cases, they feel differently about the feature. It might not be usable, but they have to use it, and so forth. So these are a very effective way to gain an understanding of your health of customer and product. So your team can go and build some actions around that, and be more data driven. I'm gonna check the chat options. Cool. So step number 2 is actually design user journeys towards the desired outcome. So when as a user, I'm joining your product, I'm start using your product towards a desired outcome, especially in the B2B space. So what should we look at as product managers? Number 1 is the value gap. The first mile of product. I just took a decision. I tried your product, or I'm buying your product. There's a gap between the what I expected your product to deliver versus what I see right now in the product. Maybe it's about how to use your product. Maybe it's about some gaps in your top of line messaging. So you want to have more consistency around what is marketing speaking about, how can you drive this use case when customers try your product, and what features should they use. So there's a big difference between a prospect trial coming in towards being active and showing them how to really drive value. So in this case, what you want to track and measure and optimize is the first mile of product, making that the first experience, making that very, very top of mind. In many cases, most product managers and myself in the past is like looking at long-term strategic differentiation, speaking about that, but most of your customer might be stuck on the early stage of adoption. You want to give that some attention. One of the elements you want to track and maybe optimize is the first mile of product, as we said here. And in our product, for example, we do track two very important elements, which I do suggest everyone to track. Number one is the role. If you have different personas using your product and you're building their features and outcomes, can you capture that as they sign up at some way? And then second would be their objective. Normally a mature product will have 5 to 6 objectives of what people can actually do. If you have too many objectives, you probably have a lot of capabilities, but might be high complexity. But if you narrow down to the key outcomes your customers can achieve, normally you can ask them as well, what are your goals? That will help you better understand the data that you're seeing and better help your customer success team to guide customers to value, and in many cases also use the in-app messaging to help and assist your customers. So as part of the onboarding experience, to ask if you don't know the role or objective, it's a very important data point to collect. And then in this case, when you planning your roadmap or you're planning your in-app messaging or a customer success effort or even sales effort, you want to map the customer growth flywheel and understand their experiences. You want to tie customer journey to the product experience, what type of features they need to experience through acquisition. Maybe this is a trial. What type of features should they use and be aware during onboarding, and really putting metrics and user engagement and feedback into that context. Otherwise, you're hearing a lot of opinions, you're speaking with very different customers, but if you don't put that into context and saying, I'm now going to look and optimize my onboarding as priority, then it becomes like trying to do too many things in too many areas. So building this flywheel is important because this customer flywheel will allow you to really grow and build a more effective business. If you're good in onboarding, they move to adoption, then you're prioritizing features for the true value of your product, and then retention and growth, you're allowing them to invite other users. So the way you look at it is what metrics should I measure in each stage and what should I prioritize? If you're trying to do only strategic elements, you're missing out on onboarding and adoption, you will experience a leaky bucket. One of the elements we do suggest using when a user is onboarding to your product is to show them some type of checklist. Here's a set of things and teach them how to use your product. In this scenario, we're seeing a checklist. If I click here, it will actually show me a walkthrough to a specific set of features. So empowering the end user is important. They want to be self-served and they want to understand how to use your product quickly. So those type of in-app tools are available for them, for the assistant, and you'll be able to see where they click more and what type of features are being used than others. The second part is really unlock magic moments. Magic moments is where they really understand and use the first valuable feature of your product. So tracking these, but also guiding users towards those magic moments, and especially around key features. So if you're seeing those key features that drive a lot of value, make sure that the discoverability of this feature is high. People know how to use it. Use UX tactics to emphasize those key elements in the UI. For example, if I'm now going to your product, maybe it's an empty state of the product, can you put the right calls to action, the right buttons, more emphasize where the user actually should click first? In this case, you're seeing in-app messaging being used by Adobe to really drive customers towards value. So it will segment the right users and say, oh, if you're a user at that stage and you might be an admin, we want to guide you and show you specific features by using tooltips and walkthrough inside the product. So it really helps them accelerate time to value and makes the user aware about a new feature or important feature that you want to go and use. And there's many examples of user in-app messaging that we also do inside Gainsight to drive awareness, but our customers do the same. So every release is being messaged so customers know about releases. Webinars and events like this one, you can use your product as a tool to message that as well. We're seeing a huge amount of click-throughs when you use in-app messaging in the right way. So if customers see this is valuable, and you want to enable your customers, maybe your customer success wants to enable them, maybe the product management wants to enable customers. So promoting webinar through the app is a fantastic way. And then there's also building a more prescriptive adoption path. When you're building your roadmap and you want to look at the different stages and challenges, you want to say, hey, this is what I expect customers to do at level 1, basic setups and things like that. As the prospect is moving to the next set of value, normally maybe after 30 days or 90 days, these are the set of features I want them to experience. When you're taking a data-driven approach, you want to first survey, track, understand that this is green before you jump to level 2, and then move way up into this maturity of adoption. Again, our standard way of looking at things is it's about differentiation and tactical features and more feature to deliver. But looking at this more holistically, you will know that you're growing the right strategy. So balancing your future roadmap and differentiation with existing prioritization to see and help your customers get more value is important. And if you're mapping this journey, you'll be able to say, great, I'm going to focus on level 2 as opposed to focus on level 4 and forgetting about these early elements. So this is a nice template to use. Map the key features, 3 features at every stage that you want to make sure that are working properly before you move to the next value feature. And step number 3 is looking at product adoption. In this scenario, we want to identify and eliminate friction points. So you can really use data. You can put funnels to see a specific set of workflows you want to use or to go through and see if there's a drop-off. There's a report called path analysis that shows you the feature usage flow, and you can identify drop-off zone and areas of friction. And so you can use data if you instrument your product. And then the third element will be the surveys. You can actually collect some feedback so you can understand what is guiding their decision, or how do they feel about specific features. Looking at user retention, this is the report you want to get familiar with, especially at early stage companies. This is a strong indication of your product health and the predictability of churn or growth. This is taking a cohort of users from sign-up date and checking how many are coming back week over week from the previous sign-up. So if 10 users or 100 users sign up for the first week, how many are coming back week over week? And this line should be, and normally it's above 30% and stays flat, and this means you actually reach product market fit. If this line goes to 0, it means none of the 100 users that signed up actually came back. So you need to go back to the drawing board and understand what's going on. It might be for the entire product. It might be for a new module or a new feature you launch. You want to make, if this is a frequently used feature, this will show you how many are coming back and continue to use the feature. And then if you're doing a great job and you're delivering more value, so from the initial stage of sign up, actually more users will come back over time because you're telling them, hey, I improved these features, I released more feature relevant to you. So from the initial sign up, more will suddenly come back and you'll see a smiley face. So it's a very important analysis to look at, and you can start slicing the data based on the customer segment. Is these admins, slice the data by the key features that you want to see. What is the key features that leading them to come back? So user retention is very, very important analysis to do on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. If you see some challenges there, your roadmap should reflect how to address that. Here's another example to show you the differences between different types of customers. This company has enterprise customers, but also small, medium businesses. And you can see that in some cases, the smaller account are actually healthy, coming back, but the larger account that pay more actually are below the average. So for them, it's very actionable to say, hey, my enterprise accounts maybe are looking for different features, more usability, If I improve this line, this will reflect revenue of the company, short-term and long-term. So slicing the data, comparing and understanding is very important as you build your roadmap. And then looking at the sticky features, really separating the wheat from the chaff, like really understanding what high value feature are leading customers to come back. That should be always your priority, because stickiness means healthy customer and revenue. So understanding and also addressing the different types of users. If I look at the product adoption life cycle, you might be early stage, you might have like early adopters, so usability is not an issue for them. They figure out a way, they always solve it, they're always happy to adopt your new feature. But as you mature with the market, you have the early majority that they emphasize time to value and simplicity way more, and they don't tend to use the more sophisticated features. So when you understand the product life cycle, you want to address those type of elements. In these areas, when companies hit this area or late majority, you will see the prioritization of time to value, UX and usability becoming a very high priority. These guys are not looking for very sophisticated implementation. They look for smarter product that actually does the job for them and very easy to use product. So also be aware that you might be very successful here, but you have a jump to do to make the product very scalable. Step number 4 is enabling closed loop feedback, which is really connecting with your users at high scale. You want to build an iterative feedback loop process, especially when you're launching or building new features or new product. You want to be able to maybe release it as beta, get some input and feedback from your users, measure the usage, and learn. Creating these loops are very, very important. It just allows you to remove the guessing game for what you do. So I've built 2 products that got highly adopted by using this strategy. I was always looking at what are they using, always speak with your customers, always look at the usage, and always optimize. I cannot tell you enough how much you need to go through these elements. Product market fit is something that you want to maintain. It's not just a period you went through, it's every year. You need to think about product market fit, and it has to be covered by data saying, I see how customers are using it, are they happy, and what to look for next. So that creating that loop is important. In this scenario, we can see how we can trigger in-app surveys, and many companies do it, Atlassian and others. As soon as you use a feature, they will trigger the survey, they will sample the users to get a score. Because again, they want to learn more, and they will ask you for some comments as well, and they take it very seriously. So if I know that you're using the product very frequently and the score is high, this is great, but it might be the opposite. And I want to make sure that I prioritize my roadmap based on those customer feedback. And using in-app, you can get a lot of feedback at high scale. And creating that dialogue with your customers through in-app is very effective. You can actually ask some questions for the specific audience that you want to learn more. So using your product as a research tool as well, what is working for them, what is not, what is their top priority. These will allow you to collect more data at scale. And imagine now your next roadmap discussion or QBR, you're bringing data input from 1,000 users or 100 users as opposed to 5 or 10 users that the CEO spoke with. This is much more data driven. And if you connect it to your other systems, you will have a better view of what the different customers actually need from different cohorts. So the last step before we go to question is actually driving cross-functional alignment. In this scenario, we want to make sure that it's a team effort. It's not just one person actually doing everything. So the number one thing when you're moving to a more product-led organization in general, and most companies are becoming more product-led because eventually they're building product and they want to perfect this product and make that as a sales tool. So cross-functional endorsement of customer value is really what the culture you want to have. And what we're seeing in companies, and we do at Gainsight, we have actually cross-functional tiger teams. So we have daily stand-ups, we cover product elements, we cover success, we cover support, and sales and marketing. It's all around what do you need from the products team, what is working, what is not. Creating that alignment is very important, and making sure that everybody has the customer value in mind. So from sales perspective, they need to really understand the product. They need to position the product, because right now when they have freemium or trials, the customer is well educated. They are not expecting to meet sales. They actually expect to meet product experts. If they're just meeting sales, that's just going to ask them about budget, that's not going to be a very interesting discussion for them. But if the salesperson can be contextual and say, hey, let me show you what's the best practice looks like, and engage users at the right time based on the usage data, that can be very effective for the end user and appreciated by the end user. So putting the customer at the center, looking at what the product delivers and getting alignment is very important. Then you can see a better orchestration of the customer journey. And these companies will grow into a very effective hyper growth companies, as opposed to bifurcated, marketing is doing great, but sales are not. We're seeing that as well in the old world, that marketing reports on a great amount of opportunities, but sales are not closing them. The product team is becoming the center of growth, and they need to understand these challenges to be able to impact the roadmap in that scenario. So the last element will be about prioritization. Obviously, you want to look at the market segment that you're after. Maybe you have a new market segment you want to go after. Competitive advantage, building moats around the product. So messaging around your prioritization for the future, having these elements is going to be very, very effective, and backing that with usage data. Usage data impact. So we're seeing that in these areas, customers are unhappy and high-paying customers are less using that. That can drive a better decision and alignment with the broader team in your company. And looking at these 6 data points can really help you. You focus on the persona, you collect the right feedback, and you can also connect that revenue data and saying, this is my decision based on these elements. Always great to have in as type of your discussion, as opposed to just explaining new features, which is great, but why did you decide to build them? And can you bring data to support that? So that's going to help you with that quite a bit if you look at those guidelines. So we're going to move now to Q&A. And I saw a couple of questions show up. Let me just go there and see how we can address them. Trying to drag it here. All right, again, Q&A. Now I can see it. So do you recommend showing prototypes to the end user doing development? Absolutely. I think that this is a great question. My second startup, which is Gainsight PX, I used, one of the early hires or outsource was actually UX mockups that I actually shared with design partners. You definitely want to have design partners from the target audience you're gonna sell to, or have them use your product. And when you look at the persona, remember the market segment. Is this guy early stage or early adopter? Is it small company, large company? Make sure that you can share the prototype with them. It can be just screenshots, just mockups that they can see the flow. They don't need a functional system. The other option, when you have enhancement or features you're releasing, is to put some feature flag in and just enabling that to a set of users, getting their feedback, and then making this GA. When at Marketo we had 6,000 customers, we had thousands of users. So when we release a feature, we wanted back then to start small, get the right feedback, because once you open the gate, everybody's using that. And if you want to fix something, it's a data fix. So definitely highly recommend to use prototypes, mockups, beta features, and feature flag, and so forth. For companies the next question here, for companies that want to transform from offering services to building products, do you think that product-led growth needs a market of adequate market size? I think that in general is a great question. Number one is there's a big difference between services and products. So you need to understand the cost and timeline and things of products. It's just a different motion. But I think product-led strategy is a mindset you want to start with any solution you're offering as a services company. If you're not going to get venture capital, I think you have to go with a product-led strategy to see what works, start small, and just like offering value. Because again, when you do launch a big product, you need capital to build this launch, to support that with all the engineering. So again, this is something I would definitely recommend. If it's a niche market and it's early, it's very technical and it's very complex, you might start without a product-led growth motion. You're just going to start with specific customers that are willing to pay for your early stage product, but the mindset should go towards product-led growth, because otherwise, again, it's very expensive not to do it. Let's say you've built a great product and you're not able to scale, you're not able to sell it because you don't have the capital. Is the dashboard on the focus KPIs shareable? Yeah, I think we will share this presentation with you guys. So you'll be able to see that. There's many KPIs, and we actually have at Gainsight a product-led strategy page and book to download, but also Pulse for Product was an event we've done last year. We also shared best practices, and we have another webinar, 4 days of sessions coming in the week of April 26th. So check out gainsight.com. We will publish this new webinar coming up, and we're going to cover those as well. And the last question, can you please mention some apps you recommend for finding friction points? So obviously I'm biased for Gainsight PX, the product experience platform. We do provide analytics, which is actually with zero coding implementation for instrumentation. But tools like screen recording as well can be used, and we integrate with them as well. So you can actually see some videos of how users use and identify that. But you want to have analytics for sure, any type of analytics, especially product analytics. There are a couple of vendors out there to start looking at the flow. And as I mentioned, use funnel for a specific path. One of the basic things when you go to product analytics is not to just look at the data and just explore and try to find patterns. When you build a product, you actually build a set of features and use case that you demo to your customers and you teach them how to use. So measure that type of flow. How many are completing the workflow in the funnel? How frequently do they do it? And the path analysis, to see where they drop off if they don't complete that set of clicks to use this feature. Then you'll know where the higher friction is happening. And again, you have those other tools in combined with analytics that actually record the screen that is also recommended to use, because you can see exactly where they click as they move out. And by the way, have your customer, when you speak with your design partners, and you can pick 3 to 5 design partners as customers, and have them use the product and watch and tell them like, hey, let's build the guide. Don't tell them where to click. And you will see, how they address your product and whether they try to click first. It's amazing to see it. Sometimes for you, it's going to be a very simple thing, and your end user just doesn't find how to do it. So giving them the product and not saying anything and not touching the mouse and not, telling them click here, let them figure it out and just keep quiet is a very effective way. And you should do it all the time. You're releasing more features, more enhancement. You want to make sure that you go back to your advisor or the design partners and still see how they are able to use your product. You're going to discover also they do some things you didn't expect them to do. or use some features in a different way. So really important to understand friction point. And last thing about friction point is even the first sign up. We're seeing if you're building a sign up process for your free trial, if the first step asks the user to go and activate an email, you will see a large drop. So as part of starting a trial, you want them to give you some more information or show them part of the product before you ask them to validate their email address, because that will actually create less friction or high friction. So I think that we are almost out of time. Would love to get any other questions.
Yes, Mickey, thank you very much. It was an awesome presentation. I also have some questions from messages as well. So let me read them to you. So first question, is there an overview of how easy or difficult it is for an organization to adopt product-led strategy? And if yes, how it is affected?
To measure and adopt the product what, sorry?
I'm sorry, for the product-led transformation. Let's say if some organization wants to adopt product-led as a strategy, how easy or difficult it is?
Yeah, I think it's to start with, I would say you want to look at the on the product marketing side, and is your product ready for trial experience? I would definitely start with that. Even if you feel that you need more into the product, I would definitely experiment with that. So because sometimes sign up and having the user sign up and then maybe engaging with sales is also okay as you progress. So doesn't have to be a big bang, and you shouldn't be afraid to open your product for trials. So I've seen like extreme cases that they start a trial and then they are telling the customer, we will get back to you in a few hours. Obviously you want to make that, automatic provisioning, and now the customer is in the product, and then they told them, now we're going to get back to you with customer success. But over a few months, now it became more and more self-service. But you want to make sure that you're driving enough trials, you're able to drive enough trials. So I would put an experiment for a trial, see how many users marketing can drive in before I build 6 months of product, features towards that. And see if it makes sense. Well, do I, emphasize more? Second would be, it should be a discussion on a cross-functional discussion as well, with the founders, with the CEO, saying, look, this is a go-to-market. Eventually we need to adopt, or our competition will adopt before us. So get the buy-in from them, and just make it as an experimental project, but definitely get alignment from sales, from marketing, because if you're just going to do it yourself, you might end up with too little effort and you're not going all in, and the company will not understand, what's the effectiveness. So cross-functional alignment is really important. It's a go-to-market decision, right? It's not just a product decision. So the CEO, founders need to be involved. But I can tell you, we can see phenomenal companies like Monday.com came and disrupted the project management space, with a very saturated space, and they came out of nowhere with product-led strategy and just like growing exponentially and delivering great product. And it was a founder decision to go and like do a product-led growth motion. So it's the product team behind it, the marketing is behind it, sales is behind it. That's a good recipe for a successful product-led.
Awesome, thank you very much. We have also another question here. Do you recommend an explainer video or PDF for explanation on onboarding?
Yeah, I think videos are becoming way more usable, like, tools to show short videos, very actionable. Any messaging you're using, make it short. Users don't like to read at all. And if you look at even your features, sometimes you'll have those text next to the feature and user will not read it. We did some experiment, for example, we had the API keys or things like that, and we had text explaining, and we saw that you never actually read that, even if it's inside the product. So using more visual, we are very visual creatures. We can analyze picture, I think, 1,000 times faster than text. So video is great. Tooltips, guides are fantastic. And again, even those should be like, to the point, 2 steps, 1 step, showing me stuff as a user. That is a much more effective than a PDF. Definitely having online documentation is important because if you can explain the use cases, if it's more how you build a program around something, then you want to have some sort of almost a blog post about how to use the feature. It will drive actually demand and best practices. That stuff users definitely like to read in this different context. They say, hey, let me be more strategic and let me read about that. So I would invest in blog posts before I will do any PDF download. How many of you actually download the PDF, but did you actually read it eventually? Probably not, or maybe you just skim through. So that's a great question.
And I have a follow-up a comment on that about the blog posts. So you're using the blog posts as a strategy for inbound, or you use a blog post for explanation while the user is on the onboarding?
I think it helps both because as they are going through onboarding, this is going to help you with the support ticket deflection, because how many times you've seen customers hit the issue, but you're saying, how do you even get there? Why did you climb out the window? Because they didn't have the right recipe, the right strategy, how you expect them to use. And a blog post is helping you both as an inbound tool, but also teaching your customers, here's the basics, it's like learning ski or learning skateboarding. Is like, if you don't know the basics, you end up with painful situations.
Great. So I have another one. What about market and country expansion? Do you think that product-led strategy will help facilitate or lead these expansions?
Customer marketing is becoming a very hot topic. I think that expansion with product-led expansion is happening more organically, because peers can actually invite each other. I can tell you that, for example, we have a big customer called Adobe, and the expansion is happening there more organically, because users could actually provision new subscriptions. They can invite their peers, but you need to market that as well. So customer marketing is about looking at customer needs, customer signals. If you look at old school marketing, they look only on you download the white paper. So that's your signal to buy. And I think, maybe not. But if I see someone use the product, I can see they're trying to achieve something. I see maybe it's existing customer that I can upsell to. I can look at the usage. And now marketing can be way more contextual and say, oh, you're hitting a threshold, or here's a use case for you to go and implement. So customer marketing is becoming part of the growth team. And their job is post purchase. They are driving the adoption of key features, and they are driving the expansion, because you need to do some marketing messaging around the product. This is where the product team is not necessarily the best team to write messaging. So customer marketing is really a fantastic way to say, hey, you guys are going to own adoption and expansion. If they only own expansion, they are very out of context trying to offer things, and they try to see what works, but they don't really offer the right thing to the right user. So they need to be aware of the signals and usage when they do it.
Perfect. And since we are talking about adoption, there's a following question. Adoption phase. Are there any hints on how to make sales and customer success teams collaborate better? Because I think you had this diagram where you cover sales and customer success.
Absolutely. I think that that collaboration is key, especially in Gainsight. For example, what we do, our product managers and customer success, we've built a score model as well. During the onboarding of a user and customer, we have a score model that shows like the depth and breadth of features being used and the feedback that we collected. So customer success sometimes have more strategic discussion with the company and saying, hey, this is the features you're right now using. This is what we recommend. And if the product management knows these use cases, they're always going to optimize and get that feedback and close the loop with enhancements. That is a good collaboration. When you don't have it, there's a scenario when product managers are always strategic and looking for the next thing, and customer success are filling the gaps. They're running and building this potholes for the customer, and the customer keeps falling, and customer success are lifting them up. That's a scenario when there is not great collaboration. So building a score model and mapping the journey we saw in the slide. Hey, look at level 2. Do they use the features? What was their feedback? If you do this cross-functional team meetings and getting this feedback from your customer success, it's a great way. If you're selling to enterprise, and we're selling to enterprise, then customer success have a huge feedback on your roadmap, and they are collecting those very deep feedback from enterprise accounts you want to capture, you want to close the loop. Then becomes really important to have those even future roadmap decisions, because your enterprise account now are taking you into their long-term consideration. And if you're not able to project in the next couple of quarters, I'm going to address those high-scale use cases, you're going to lose these customers. So customer success are the channel to distill that data from the customer and work with the product management team. That collaboration is key for any successful company.
I think the collaboration is like a magic triangle: sales, customer success, and product management. It's about everything. It's collaboration.
Absolutely. And I think that the more product is tuned to those, and again, product managers need to balance, right? You want to make sure that you're not just solving today's problem, you want to solve tomorrow's problem as well. But we have a tendency to just worry on one side, where sales and customer success are really on the tactical side. But I can tell you that tactical things are impacting the health of your company a lot. It's just like something that we have to realize.
Great. I have one last question, and it's how early in the product discovery do you need to define the metrics to monitor in your product?
As soon as you launch any product, you want to define, so those basic metrics like daily actives, or what I showed that days active within a week. Some do like MAU divided by DAU, but you want to have like days active within a week, retention analysis, basic stuff should be there, because you're now launching, even if you have 10 customers, see, are they using it daily? Are they using the right features? When you choose KPIs, it needs to be simple and actionable. Dashboard with 20 KPIs are bad dashboards. Nobody understands. It's red, green. They deal most of the time with causation, trying to, what did it happen was, but if it's like, hey, these are the key features for early stage, are they being adopted or not? What is the survey telling me, the score? It's just, as soon as you invest like so much, even with single engineer is a lot of investment, right? This is costly time, effort, sweat, and tears. Measure that. And if you don't measure that, you'll get like those, you get more opinion driven roadmap, which is especially we have very, founders tend to have the bias, the founder's bias to specific things, and they might think that everybody is just like don't understand their vision. But looking at the data is definitely getting their attention to make sure that this is. And I'm a very customer focused type of founder. I'm like, if my customer is not happy, it's not them, it's me. And that's something we want to definitely. And with data, it's really important to do it from day one. And I can tell you that when I joined Marketo, public company, I thought, okay, let's, a world-class, iconic company growing and like crazy. But when we took decisions, we had like struggle with data. So eventually it ended up being, the highest paying person in the room took those decisions, and that was bad. And so that's actually what led me to build Gainsight PX, to gain this insights, because I felt like, hey, we're taking decision. Maybe you were right, maybe you were wrong, but it's $1 billion decision. So getting to the data helped us a lot to really understand, but it was very tough to get data. It wasn't simple. So that was the challenge I wanted to go and solve when I built Gainsight PX. So how can I make it accessible, simple, out of the box for product managers to go and consume, as opposed to, every QBR, you see them running like headless chicken, trying to get some data points and support. And I think we should see more and more standards around data, because sometimes data can be the opposite. It's just going to support the thing you wanted to support. So you find the data points you're happy with, as opposed to say, if there's a standard in the, because if you go public, for example, customer acquisition cost is a standard. The retention is a standard. You cannot just invent metric. So I see this is coming for product management as well. Like, what's the standard KPIs, and then everybody's on the same page.
Okay, thank you very much, Alon. Thank you very much for everything. I have some closing remarks on my side. Just let me share for one moment my screen. So this is us again. Thanks everyone for watching this webinar. Of course, you can all follow our LinkedIn page and our meetup page. We will be publishing the next events there. Thank you for your questions and your time today. Thanks, Alon, again. Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you very much for having me.
Have a nice day to you. Have a nice evening for everyone else in different time zones.
Thank you very much. Feel free to connect through LinkedIn, and I shared my email as well. If you have several questions, ideas you want to share, we're always happy to. And stay tuned for our next product-led bootcamp we are having in April, week of April 26th. 4 days, great speakers speaking about product strategy, customer success, and marketing growth. So going to be super interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day to you. Bye.